Hi friends, this is Annie Grace. I am the author of This Naked Mind, and I am answering readers' questions. Today I have a question from Angela. Angela says, when you quit drinking, did you have it in your head that you were quitting forever, or did you give yourself a goal or something of like 1 year? What do you think about having a goal? Thanks for everything. So neither, actually. So when I quit drinking, I had done all the work that I outlined in my book, This Naked Mind, to really recondition my mind, all of it, my conscious mind, my unconscious mind, my internal desires around alcohol, to the point where when I quit drinking, I walked out of my office after like a year-long research, and I told my husband, I said, if you want to get drunk with me, tonight's the last night, because I'm not getting drunk after this. And it was just like, I don't want to do it. Like, I didn't put a forever tag on it because I didn't. And I know that's probably not popular, like maybe I should be like, yes, forever, it's forever. But it really, in the moment, it was like, I don't ever want to do that. Like, I didn't have the desire to drink. So it wasn't as if I was trying to, when I say, okay, I've quit something forever, I'm never ever going to do that again, that feels like something that I'm doing out of kind of obligation, or because I've made a commitment, or because there's some sort of desire to do it. Like I'm never going to eat ants. Like my brother randomly used to eat ants when he was little, and it's something I will never do, but I'm never going to say like I've made this big commitment to never eat ants again. So one of the things that I like to say is, I drink whenever I want to drink. I just never want to drink. There's never a time when I sit there and be like, oh, this would be a good idea. And I do a lot of work to keep that true. I do a lot of kind of reconditioning and reversing my thoughts and going through the same process I did and being really mindful and observant of the alcohol-saturated culture. I'm never going to want to smoke a cigarette. It's the same thing, that I just don't want to put that in my body. I see it as poison. I see it as something that really held me back. I see it as something that makes all my nights monotonous. I see it as something that stole from me precious memories, something also that stole from me just the beauty of falling asleep, which is a really incredible thing because I don't remember falling asleep. I would just sort of pass out. And so it's, I guess if I have to say, I'm never going to drink again, like I'm comfortable with that, but that wasn't in my mind specifically when I quit. So it wasn't as if I was making some commitment to the universe about my intention. It was more as if, I don't want that anymore. And then that made it kind of really easy. Now, I will say that I think there's the most freedom in that path. I will also say, and there's a big disclaimer at the beginning of my book, that once you're physically addicted, once you've actually changed your brain in response to alcohol, that kind of commitment becomes much more difficult. And, my book is primarily for, thank you, Nick. Yeah, it's summertime. My book is primarily for people who are really emotionally and psychologically addicted, that it's mostly in your head, that you have an emotional attachment where you believe alcohol is vital to relaxing or having a good time. But where, you're not going to go through physical necessary withdrawals. Now, I think my book can absolutely help people that are physically addicted to retrain their mind and just to get their head on straight around alcohol. But equally, I definitely don't want to say that I'm responding for someone who has a physical addiction to alcohol, because that, I don't believe I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, I'm just somebody who, really found my path by doing the work of liminal thinking and really reversing my thought process around alcohol. But in terms of the second part of your question is, what do I think about a commitment and a goal? I personally, and again, I don't know if this is the popular opinion, but I personally think it's a great idea. There's something that happens in our brains. There's neural pathways formed when we do one of two things. There's pathways formed when we make a goal and keep it, and those pathways are strengthened and strengthened and strengthened. That's how habits are formed. That's why, people say if you exercise for 21 days in a row, it becomes a habit. Equally, there's pathways formed when you make a commitment and break it. So if you make a commitment not to drink today and you drink today, you are more likely to drink tomorrow. Studies show this. And so making a commitment to not drink forever and then breaking it, makes it more difficult for you to keep that commitment. So I would say make small commitments. Make commitments that you can keep, so that you can continue to make more and more commitments and recondition your brain and form those pathways to say, yes, okay, let your brain teach your brain that you're good at keeping your commitments. So make commitments that are absolutely non-negotiables for you, and do things, to help yourself with those commitments. There's a reader, his name is John, and he has a great method where he literally kind of reduced his amount over time to going alcohol free, and he did it, a certain amount every time, because the idea of just going completely free right away was so scary for him. And he would do things to make sure that he had to keep that commitment. So if his limit, I think he started at 14 units and he got down to 0, but if his limit was 5 units for that day, he would only allow himself to have 5 units in the house, and then he would not, have somebody hide the keys. So he physically wasn't able to drink more than that, and so if your commitment is, I'm not going to drink today, or I'm going to drink less, or whatever, set yourself up for complete success, because successes are really powerful in your brain, and they really help you to kind of retrain that. But then equally do the work. I think that one of the biggest things, and people are trying to let go of alcohol, there's all sorts of reasons why you stay stuck. And I think in a minority of cases, it's that you're physically addicted, and you have to physically be removed from access to alcohol. You need to go to a rehabilitation center. You need to go to a sober living community. I do think that's a minority. I think most of us are really emotionally and psychologically addicted with a small amount of physical addiction. And I think in those cases, you have to look really, really hard at why are you drinking in the first place. And for the vast majority of people, it's to self-medicate. And so realizing that and dealing with that, and looking very hard and saying, okay, I'm going to have the courage to get to know myself and get to find out other ways to deal with my stress, I think is really important. Because often, if you look at all the reasons to drink, some of the reasons that keep people stuck, they're not socially necessarily and stuff. They're often because I do it to zone out, or I do it to turn my brain off completely, or I do it because it's so painful to just be in my life. And the truth is like, your life, it just shouldn't be that painful. I mean, we live in a society, in a day and age where there's so much less drama than any other point in history. At this point in time, as a percentage of human beings being killed in the world, fewer human beings are being killed. We live in a time of great abundance, and so you don't need to turn yourself off from that. But I understand you do need to find alternate ways of sort of relaxing. So I think a commitment, that you can keep, whether it's 30 days, and I like the guys at 1 Year No Beer. We're definitely working on some stuff together, but they have a great kind of methodology where they have a 30-day commitment. It's a very supportive Facebook group. They have all sorts of tools. You get 30 days worth of emails. It's all free, and that's oneyearnobeer.com. And then once you do 30 days, they challenge you for 90 days, and then once you do 90 days, they challenge you for a year. And then once you do a year, most people end up not drinking, because after you've experienced the entire calendar year of events without drinking, it becomes really empowering. And I will say that, at that moment where I was like, all right, I'm done drinking, like it was, I didn't plan necessarily for things, but I will say after the first year of going through everything, because there is natural anxiety during your first Christmas without alcohol, your first birthday party, your first New Year's Eve without alcohol. Like there's anxiety there, because you don't know what it will be like, because chances are, you've been getting drunk on New Year's Eve since you were a teenager. And so what is this going to be like? And going through that year and having that bank of experiences has been one of the most powerful and affirming things. And then you sort of really know, okay, this is the choice that I want to make, and then it becomes a forever thing. But I think for me, it became a kind of forever thing really, really naturally and kind of organically, more than like all right, it's a sentence. It never felt like a sentence. It always felt like, oh, I've learned something. I've learned something about alcohol that makes me free. I've learned that I don't need it, and especially in areas of creativity, I think that's a huge one. We say, as a writer or as an artist, we say, oh, I drink for creativity. One of the most amazing things, and I did it at work, it was negotiating and sort of strategy, and we'd go out to the bars and we'd be sitting around and we'd be talking about whatever strategy we were going to deploy for the marketing department and whatnot. And I just thought so much of my creativity and my good ideas came from those drinks. And it was incredible to realize, oh wait, after I stopped drinking, that's all up here anyway. Like that was one of the most life affirming things, is to realize New Year's Eve, the good time I had, that's here. This is it. It's not here in this bottle. It's not there in that, in that thing that's going to make me sick the next day. It's here. And I think that is something that you have to experience sober. So committing to a time where you can commit to being sober, to allow yourself, to give yourself the gift of those experiences, is really powerful. If you need to commit to a day and give yourself a beautiful sober day. But equally, I think it needs to be at least a month, because you just are going through withdrawals for at least the first 10 days. Even though we're not necessarily physically addicted to the point where we can't restrain ourselves if we see a bottle, I think there is definitely a physical element, and you are going through withdrawals. Your body is compensated for drinking every day, and you need to be able to purge that from your system, and there's a lot of sort of anxiety in doing that, and you need to get past that kind of month and then give yourself the gift of just trying things and doing things alcohol free. So I think if you can commit to a year and you can make that commitment to yourself with all your heart, I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I think on the other side of a year, you'll look back and you'll probably never want to do it again. And then hopefully organically, it becomes a forever thing. It becomes the right thing for you. So anyway, thank you so much, Angela. It's a great question. And again, this is Annie Grace, author of This Naked Mind. I've been traveling a lot. I'm going to continue traveling the entire month of July. So I have kind of a backlog of questions. So I apologize if I haven't answered yours yet, but please keep sending them. I'm going to keep track of every single one. I will answer every single question. So again, please keep sending them. And thank you so much.